A few things out of the gate that Jim Rohn said immediately that resonated with me was, the amount of money that you make is the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace. You want to make more money, increase your value. He's like, the day that your life changes is the day that you start to work harder on yourself than you do in your job. How can I get a little bit more effective and a little bit more efficient? Now, I'm all about efficiency, but I will not sacrifice effectiveness for efficiency. You got to have clarity on what is that you want. What do you want? Why do you want it? Why is it important to you? This is the biggest mistake that I see people make is they lack extreme clarity on what it is that they want.
Welcome back to the Reside Platform podcasts. We are super excited for our special guest. And if you don't know who this person is, you probably do. But if you don't, you're going to be really excited and you're going to want to follow his content because he's really the OG of real estate podcast, YouTube content, massive value. We got Joshua Smith here. And check this out. He started in real estate in 2005, sold 48 homes his first year. Super jealous of that because I sold one home. Started a team in 2006. Like, get this. He started a team in 2006 before teams were even teams, right? So he's been doing this for a long time and has sold over 7,000 homes, named 30 NAR's Realtor 30 under 30, top 30 Realtor in the US, host of the GSD podcast. Suneet was just on the podcast, so was I, and we just had to ask Josh to be on this with us. He is the founder of The Perfect Storm. It's a website CRM for realtors, so he's a tech leader. He's a founder and owner of Mastery Bootcamp Coaching Program. Just got done with a 2-day mastermind, over 100 top producers, broker owners, team leaders. We're going to want to find out about that. Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's an honor to be here. I'm stoked to be jamming with you guys.
Yeah. And so Suneet and Josh has known each other for a while. So Suneet, you said you have a notebook full of questions.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Josh is sick of me telling this same story. So we might as well just get it out of the way now, right, Josh? Is like, I got my real estate license again in 2014 and did moderately okay. I had never listened to a podcast at that point in my life, had never watched a YouTube at all at that point in my life, 2014, right? I guess I was a late bloomer. And Dan Herbert, who is still with me on my team, was a graduate of Joshua's program. Told me, he goes, dude, podcast. I was like, what the hell's podcast? Like, what is this? You mean that's the purple button on my iPhone? Well, let me listen to it. What's the podcast I listen to? And the only one I listened to for way too long was the GSD Mode. This changed my life. And like I said, Josh is tired of me saying this, but this changed my life. Mentor from afar, got me back into fitness, got me into lead gen, introduced me to Cheplak, right? Like, so many integral parts of my life came from Joshua Smith's podcast. So the first, I mean, that's where I heard about Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, literally everything, right? So the first question I was like, dude, Joshua was coming on. I have an opportunity to ask him is, when you were coming up, bro, what were you listening to? What was your inspiration that kind of, like me talking to you, getting all excited like a fangirl still, even though we're homies, right? But where did you get that from when you were coming?
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things. People hear my first year in real estate, because I think comparison is a great thing because there's a healthy level comparison, but then there's a negative level comparison as well. And I was really blessed to grow up in the health club industry. My dad owned and operated gyms for 30 years. I started selling health club memberships and personal training packages for my dad at the age of 14. So, I mean, I had 9 years of in-depth sales experience before I jumped into real estate. So, like, this was, it was just, okay, I'm just switching out the product. Now I'm selling myself on helping people go out there and guide and accomplish their real estate goals versus selling memberships and personal training packages. So I mean, from early on, man, I mean, my first mentor, I guess, would be my father, in the sales game. My father had a lot of success in that industry. And then from there, when I jumped into real estate, one thing that I realized out of the gate, I'm like, dude, I just identified, I'm like, who is the biggest badass in our marketplace that I can align with. I didn't care what the splits were. I didn't care what, like, it didn't matter to me. I was just like, just from growing up and I was a wrestler, played football, competed in bodybuilding. And I'm like, dude, like you gotta have that right mentor, right? That right coach, that right. So, that was game number one is I just found who is the biggest badass that I want to emulate, that I would like to eventually become, and that has created the success that I want to go out there and create. So I found this dude in our market named Nate Martinez that was just a freaking stud. He's still a stud today. I spent my first 9 years of my career just, under him, shadowing him, learning everything I possibly could from him. Then from there, now this is, dude, like I jumped into this game before YouTube exists, before podcasts exist, like none of this shit existed. Right. So, I was really blessed. I had a dude in my office, Rick Ramirez, that, just saw my work ethic. I made sure I was the first one in, last one out every single day, saw how committed I was. And he gifted me. He's like, hey man, I think that this is going to resonate really well with you. And he gifted me the audio CD set of Jim Rohn's Art of Exceptional Living. And man, I just put that in my damn car. For over a year, I just looped that over and over and over. And, to be honest with you, I was never really into self-development outside of like mandatory reading in school. I never read a book by choice, and I remember, a few things out of the gate that Jim Rohn said immediately that resonated with me was, the amount of money that you make is the amount of value that you bring to the marketplace. You want to make more money, increase your value. And he's like, the day that your life changes is the day that you start to work harder on yourself than you do in your job. Like once I heard those two things, that just began my obsession with self-development. And so, that was the early on, again, I've never seen the point of trying to figure shit out on my own. And I get it. I guess with background in wrestling, sports, just all the same experiences we've all had. It's like my son's in band right now from trumpet. It's like, okay, I'm not like, dude, go figure this shit out on your own. Okay, we're going to go get him the right coaches. We're going to go get him the right, it's like, why don't we apply that to our businesses as well? So, I've always been very intentional about, you guys may know his name, Russell Shaw, as an example. One of the first things that I did as soon as I got licensed and I heard about Russell Shaw, I begged him to allow me to take him out to lunch. The dude spent like 3 hours with me, just pouring into me, giving me every piece of knowledge that you could ever fathom. And at a point where there was no way I could add any value to this life. He took 3 hours out of his busy day and sat down with me and just poured into me, and what I quickly realized is, man, the top of this game are so open to sharing and helping and supporting because they would have never got to the level they're at if they didn't have people that did that for them. So then, because again, this was before podcasts, dude. So then I just started identifying top producers in other markets. In my first couple of years, man, I don't know what I spent 40, 50 grand just jumping on airplanes. I would just call up top producers all over the country, beg them to allow me to be a fly on the wall at their office, come out and spend a few days, whatever. And I just kept repeating that process, man, as much as I possibly could, just learning from the best that I could.
Dude, that's great. That's great. Like, I love that early Jim Rohn stuff. Like, I'm always, sending Nick text messages like, bro, Jim Rohn this, or like Brian Tracy this. So the old school fundamental stuff.
Yeah, so you're still to this day, you call me up. It's like, Nick, I'm listening to Jim Rohn in the car. I'm like, whoa. Now, I'm interested.
I was going to start it over. It's been about a month since I heard any of it. So that's, yeah.
Which is really cool about this is we got Preston here. And so Preston and Josh just met. But Preston, as a beginner's mind, I'm curious for you to ask a question.
I'm just still trying to think of the question to ask. For me, I started in 2004, 2005, and it's, not necessarily the same story, but similar story. The guy that I actually went to work with he'd been in the business, land development and construction. And, same thing. I worked with him for 5 years and had a mentor, and I sat in his office and was a sponge. In every conversation he spoke to people because it's a crazy story. Like I used to bust tables in high school at a restaurant he managed. He also sold real estate and ended up starting a company. And I sat in his office for 5 years, and it was like an open office. So I'm sitting there, I'm early 20s and just listening to every conversation he has and every conversation that people come in. I think if you say like giving back, I think we all have somebody like that in our past that was a big part of it. And maybe for Suneet, it was listening to your podcast. But for me, it was sitting in that office for 5 years, just listening to the conversations and being a part of it. And, him giving a lot of things to me that most don't give away for free, and he was at that top level of, of real estate in our market and everything else. So, it's kind of a similar story as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I had a mentor here in Sacramento, and it was great. My kids are going crazy back there right now. I don't know if you guys can hear them, but they are screaming. I had a mentor here in Sacramento that was great. But what I learned from Joshua and that exposure was everything else that was happening all over the country. So like that was the really cool part. Josh, like out of curiosity, where are some of the teams that you went and sat in on, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. So, like Ryan Dallas out in Champaign. So, he's a dude that, very small market, Champaign, Illinois. But man, he just dominates that market share, so spent a lot of time with him, a lot of time with Chantel Ray. She was kind of one of my early on, and that it just blew my mind, man. Reaching out to Chantel, she's like, oh yeah, it was just like that instant, not just, can you come out and be a fly on the wall? But yeah, let's come out and spend some time together, get to, it was just that eye opener of again, how giving, the top of the top are. And I get people are busy, so you're not always going to get a yes to this, but then, okay, I meet Chantel Ray. I'm out there. Now, Chantel Ray and her husband, Ryan Finch, had built, they were in the industry separately before they met. So then they, even though they're married, they have their own separate real estate companies, right? And even though I guess her name was, Chantel Finch or Chantel Ray Finch, she still went by, in the real estate world by Chantel Ray. So I just assumed her husband was Ryan Ray, right? So then I'm out there. I'm actually, shadowing her. They invite me over to their house for dinner. So then I'm out there and I'm speaking to her husband. Now at this point, I'm in Remax and I'm studying everybody's accolades, who the top of the top are, and I start talking with her husband and he's like, oh, I'm in real estate too. And I'm like, oh, really? Just assuming that maybe they work together, maybe, whatever. Yeah. And then as I get deeper in the conversation, I'm like, it just clicks. Like, dude, this is Ryan Finch, #1 Remax agent in the United States, right? And then from there, for almost the next decade, I spent every year where I'd go out there and shadow them, shadow each of their businesses separately. And look, as great as podcasts are and as great as the virtual world is, there is, and I'm a huge believer, huge proponent of that. I do it too. But there's just something that you gain from being there physically in person.
Yeah.
That you cannot gain from a podcast, right? That you cannot gain from, it's like, I want to look at like, dude, how do they handle conversations? I would start breaking down, like, what do they eat? How quickly do they eat? How fast do they walk? How do they handle conversations with people? What's their focus look like? I wanted to know their morning routine. It's like, I just, was just obsessed with studying everything because, dude, success leaves clues. It's like, okay, if I want to be successful, I just need to go out there and emulate what the most successful people do. And then boom, that success is going to be replicated.
Dude, love that.
And what principles did you find from these top performers? The top 10s, was there any, what in their personal life, the way their habits, their eating outside of real estate?
Yeah, a few things there, but I'll tell you one of the biggest, in the beginning, it was kind of a disappointment. I expected to go out there and see the magic pill. I expected to go out there and see something revolutionary that nobody else knew, that nobody else was doing. And I quickly realized, and again, it was kind of a disappointment, but it was also kind of a huge aha and a great thing, was they weren't doing anything special. It was just like, they mastered and executed on the fundamentals more consistently and better than everybody else. So then again, it was the disappointment because I was expecting to, what I was expecting to find didn't exist, but then from there, I'm like, okay, it very clearly was, okay, what do I need to master? And now we are back into a market. The last 10 years, it's like you could just kind of be consistent, just kind of show up, just kind of work hard, and deals fall in your lap, right? Well, the game has changed. There's business times of war, business times of peace. The game is now changed where it's back to he or she that's the best operator, he or she that masters the fundamentals and executes them on the best and most consistent way is going to go out there and continue to dominate. Right? So it's like amateurs are going to get murdered right now and pros are going to go out there and dominate, so that was number one. And then quickly I realized, because I didn't want to be, like I wanted to, and still, it's like, okay, I want to be, as best as I can take it, and it was never been, I want to be number one. It's, hey, I just want to become the best version of myself, and I know that that's a hell of a lot more than where I'm at, right? But I knew out of the gate, I was like, dude, I want to become a big income earner. I believe that I had the capability of doing that. So one thing I realized really early on is, okay, like what was the difference? And one thing I started studying really early on is what's the difference between the 6-figure earners and the 7-figure earners in this industry? And it's what I quickly realized was, okay, between like 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., the shit that they did was pretty much the same. It was what they did between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. that made the difference. Like with their intentionality of their time, with their self-development, evening routines, morning routines, and I'll just go back to that intentionality. It was like everything was intentional, everything was with purpose, everything aligned. Like little things like, okay, never making sure you never enter a day without that day being fully committed to paper first. Like these people then show up to the office being like, oh, I'm going to work hard today. What do I do? In that situation, you've already lost that day. It's like they knew exactly what they needed to do each and every single day to win. They knew every single day, every single week, every single month, every single year, so it's just, okay, that planning and then that consistent execution on that plan, but then not just in business life, but also personal life. Okay, what do I need to do in my personal life to allow me to execute at the best version of myself in my business? And of course, they have outside of lives too, but it all comes together. It's like, okay, this also allows me to show up as the best version of myself for my kids, for my significant other, so those were some of those really early on lessons that I took away that, just became my own personal obsessions.
Yeah, solid. So I have so many questions. It's all over the place. But what you just said resonated. So when you were early on agent, to make this, talking to some of the agents who are no doubt grinding, if they're listening to this, then you know that they're on like that. What's Ario's non-negotiables you think for an agent in today's market?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're speaking, and I guess it comes to all of it, but agent, team leader, broker owner. But
there, so we can go through.
I'll keep it more specific to the agent side because that was the question. But it's all right. Number one, you got to have clarity on what is that you want. What do you want? Why do you want it? Why is it important to you? This is the biggest mistake that I see people make is they lack extreme clarity on what it is that they want. And again, not just what do you want, but why do you want it? Why is it important to you? Why must you go out there and accomplish this thing? Because there will be thousands of reasons as to why not to show up and do the work. And there's usually only several reasons as to why go out there and do the work. And you're not going to push through the bullshit that we have to push to go out there and create the success that we want to create unless you are extremely clear on the reason and or reasons as to why you need to go out there and make those things happen. But then from there, if we are also not clear on what is that we want, so, Suneet, going back to our being massive fans of Jim Rohn, right? I mean, what's the success of, what's the definition of success and definition of failure? It's just small, tiny decisions made each and every day, all throughout the day that compound over time, right? Failure is just the opposite. Small errors in judgment made each and every day, all throughout the day that compound over time that, lead your life or business into a failure. So how can we possibly know if we're making the right decision or the wrong decision all throughout the day if we don't know what it is of where we're going? So, that's where I always look at and start first is, okay, where are we at, dealing with realities of where we're at, and then where it is that we want to go. Well, then from there, we can reverse engineer the architectural plans to get us from where we're at to where we want to go. So that's number one that I see most people, biggest mistake that we have. Then from there, most people don't even understand the game it is that we are playing. Like, you got to know the game, you got to understand the game, you got to master the game, and every element of the game, and then be a professional at the game, And what do I mean by being a professional? So if we look at the overall real estate sales funnel, right? So, okay, it starts with activities. Activities exist to go out there and generate leads. Then, okay, we got activities, then it puts them into our funnel, our CRMs into our funnel. Okay, then we got leads. Leads exist to go out there and set appointments. Appointments set exist to conduct the appointments. Appointment conductions exist to generate clients. Clients to under contract, to closings. Boom, now we got a past client. That becomes our number one lead source, and then it's repeat. So when I talk about mastery, another word for mastery is just obsession. So when we start breaking down each of these components of the funnel, It's just like, okay, when we look at activities, okay, are you doing everything you possibly can to maximize and optimize every activity that you are doing to fulfill its purpose? What is its purpose? To go out there and generate leads. Okay, then now they become a lead in your system. Okay, are you doing everything that you possibly can to maximize and optimize your lead conversion? Because those things, those leads, those human beings inside your system only exist to set an appointment. And then it's all the way through, right? So just that constant obsession, it's like, okay, with every single lead source, do I understand the psychology and timeline of that lead source to make sure that my message is matching and I have a long enough frequency of follow-up to, again, optimize lead conversion? Most people don't even know what the acceptable conversion rate should be per lead source, so they don't know if they're winning or losing. And they're just showing at this, they're showing up and playing the game in a lackadaisical fashion. And again, most don't even understand and know the game, right? So you got to know it, you got to understand it, you got to master it. Then from there, okay, you got to make sure that you have processes and systems dialed in around every single step of the game. What is tracked is measured. Like, dude, if you are not, and I'm just stealing the Jeff Bezos quote, if you don't know the data inside your business, you are 100% going to fail. This is when I say fail, does that mean that you are not going to make it in this industry? No, you might be able to figure out how to go out there and repeat the same mediocre year for the next 30 years of your career, which is what most do in this industry, but you're not going to go out there and accomplish your goals. And maybe you do for 1 year. I mean, how many times do you guys hear this? I mean, I hear this all the time where somebody reaches out to me, man, I had my biggest year 2 years ago. I made $300,000. I took my foot off the accelerator, got content, got lazy, ran out of that money. Now I'm in trouble. And I'm like, okay, well, it's easy. Just do exactly what you did to go out there and make that 300. They're like, I have no idea what I did. I'm like, okay, yeah, right. So the only way to make smart strategic decisions in your business is to know your data. The only way to create a predictable business is knowing your data. So we got, your systems and processes. Then we got the data. Then eventually, if you want to continue to grow and scale, well, then you got to start plugging people in because you're going to hit a capacity. You got to plug the right people in at the right times. But if we don't have the right systems and processes for those people to follow, it's like, I don't care how great that person is. They can never truly show you their greatness. And then if you're not tracking each and every single element of this, how do you know if that person's winning or losing? When I look at the overall fundamentals of the end, it's like, okay, strategy, processes and systems, tracking, and then people. And we nail those things. And then of course we have to know and understand the game that we are playing. Like, then you're going to go out there and crush it. But if you don't take those things seriously, and that's what I'm talking about when I say professional versus an amateur. Professionals understand this stuff and they take this stuff seriously. Amateurs can't be bothered, to go out there and do. I mean, it's like I've got a training going on right now that's about a 3.5 hour in-depth, insane training where I break, all of this shit down. Now, the common comment that I get is, dude, the 3.5 hours, who the hell will take a 3.5 hour training? I'm like, okay, you'll go to the game that's a 3.5 hours. You'll go sit there and watch the Netflix damn show that's 3.5 hours. If you are not willing to commit 3.5 hours to free content that will change your life, then like you probably should just do yourself a favor, hang up the helmet and go fucking find a job.
Hang up the helmet. Dude, as Joshua's talking, I'm freaking grading myself and all those things. Like, okay, well, good. So
that's why you're a professional, Suneet, is look, perfectionism is a hologram that doesn't exist. There's never going to be a point where everything in our business is perfect. But it's just like, hey, I mean, it's like, dude, there's never a point in time where systems and processes aren't needing, to be refined. There's never an area or a time where we don't need improvement. It's just an ongoing thing, dude, right? But you get to a point where you get pretty damn good.
Yeah, but you always have to inspect what you expect, like nonstop. And sometimes I think as leaders grow, you can get away from that. Just distractions, busy bullshit work. Something you said really resonated with me, and you were talking about getting clarity in the things that you want, right? How does somebody get that clarity, Joshua?
So some people are blessed where they already have that clarity, and I'm jealous of those people. I have been a lot of my life. I had no idea. So when I started my, quote unquote success journey, this was in my early 20s. This was about a year and a half before I jumped into real estate. I dropped out of college. I allowed myself to adopt a victimhood mindset, allowed myself to go from, being in great shape and athletic and competing in bodybuilding to next thing you know, instead of eating 2 chicken breasts and a piece of broccoli for every meal. I'm eating 2 freaking quarter pounder with cheeses and Taco Bell and, getting drunk every noon. And, dude, I allowed myself to get up to almost 300 pounds, So, and I became massively depressed, daily suicidal thoughts. My low moment was, I planned on my suicide, and I was like, well, dude, like, shit or get the pot. Like, I got to execute on this thing and call it God, call it, the universe, whatever anybody's belief system is. I mean, I just have this loud internal voice in my head of, all right, dude, like, instead of going down this path, let's just try a different path. Like, you haven't tried this other path. If we can't figure this out, this other path doesn't work, you can always come back here. And the reality was it just scared the living shit out of me that allowed myself to get to that mental state in my mind. So at that point, I was like, okay, like, I know I want something different, but I had no idea what it was that I wanted. So okay, what's the opposite of depression? Fulfillment. I'm like, what would make me fulfilled? I'm like, I have no idea. But I'm like, so then I identified, okay, what is it that I don't want? So at that point, I was making $10 an hour. I was sick and tired of being broke. So I'm like, okay, I think if I can solve this money issue. Now, I had no idea how much money I needed to make to be happy or fulfilled, but I'm like, okay, $10 an hour I know is not enough. So I got to find a different vehicle to go out there. And I'm like, so I just identified 2 areas of my life that I was pretty unhappy with, that if I could solve those 2 equations, that it would help. So it wasn't starting off with what I wanted. It was starting off with what I knew I didn't want, So I was like, okay, I'm sick and tired of being almost 300 pounds, barely being able to get up a flight of stairs. If I'm having sex with my girlfriend, I'm like, babe, you got to be on top because I can't, hating my body, right? So I'm like, okay. So I went out there and, went on a mission to lose that 100 pounds that I allowed myself to gain, get back into epic shape. And then from there, that led me back into sales, back into the health club sales, which then led me about 1.5 years later into real estate. So yeah, I mean, that's where I recommend to start. If you can't figure out what is that you want, okay, start making a list of the shit that you just can't stand about the situation in your life, and then just start solving those problems. Because this isn't, it's an always changing thing. There was a time in about 2016 where if you asked me what I wanted more than anything else in the business world, it would have been to be a high-paid keynote speaker. Okay, so then from there, I started jumping on the speaking circuit. 2017, I'm gone about 50% of the year in hotel rooms, around. I'm like, man, I got little kids. I'm like, I was fucking miserable. Well, sometimes you got to go down a path to realize, okay, this isn't what I want. But you don't know that until you're experiencing. So this thing's always adjusting and changing, but it's just something to always keep front of mind. I mean, it's like, okay, what the average person lives to 84 years old, and then in the developed world, it's like, okay, what must happen between now and then for when I'm on my deathbed and I'm reflecting and playing the tapes back in my life for me to sit there and, because 99% of human beings, how does that conversation go? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, wish I would have done all this shit different. Now they have this heavy heart regret and wish they could play that out differently. It's like, okay, what must take place in this time that I have left for that conversation to go, hey, maybe I didn't accomplish all my dreams, goals, and visions, but I did everything I possibly could to jump on the field, play ball. I wasn't a spectator. I'm high-fiving myself. That's what I'm always obsessing over is so I call it the ultimate scoreboard. That's what I'm always paying attention to is how does that ultimate scoreboard conversation must go, in order to make that a reality.
Dude, I feel that. That's resonated because your boy's been on the road a little bit this year, and then I'm talking to Nick, and Nick's all, no, I don't travel. No. Right? And then I've been to every conference, right? Like little speaking gigs here, and
that ties into clarity. For when you ask me, I'm very clear on I want to minimize my out of area time away from family. If I can't travel with family, then I'm not, seeking the clarity I have in what I want in my life. But I think what what I was hearing too is it's very hard to get clear. Very few people are clear. Yeah. And I take the time to seek out clarity and then actually enact on that clarity to find out, whoa, that didn't work or that didn't work. And now I need to adjust.
I think too, Nick, with, you talk about regret in the life regret. I think a lot of people live with daily regret and they can never get over that to grow. So they regret things that they didn't do or did do and just stay in that moment and never get out of it. So to have clarity, you got to get out of daily regret. Some people live in regret their whole life and can never move forward.
Here's what happens when you live in daily regret. You start living in shame.
The way that you felt, Josh, right?
Yeah, you start. I lived there when I was drinking too. It was like, I was like, I didn't like myself. I like regretted that I did it again, and then there was like shame, and I didn't want to talk about it. But you're right. Like, I think, Jeff Bezos, you brought him up and had a great quote. He has a regret minimalization framework.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, in 5 years or 10 years in the future, looking back, will you regret not doing more of X, or will you regret if you continue to do Y? Right. And that's kind of the things, is like Josh is saying, what don't I want in my life? Like, what don't I like about it? What is the pain? And in the future, will I regret if I continue down that path? Yeah, for sure. Right. And then what do I want? Well, will I regret not going after that? And I think on your deathbed, right, you kind of said that, like, you're looking back in your life, you're like, minimizing the amount of regret.
Yeah. When I took that break from the health club sales, in that experience I was going through that I just talked about. So when I was making $10 an hour, I was a nurse's aide at a hospital in Holland, Michigan. And I was afloat, so I go into different floors, but most of my time was spent on the hospice floor. And that was the biggest eye opener, because people that are in hospice, the hospital world is called heaven's waiting room, right? So, I mean, these are people that are, where they're spending the last days of their life. And some of those patients would be in there for 3 months, some for 3 hours. But as a nurse's aide, like, my job was just to keep them comfortable and hang out with these patients. So I was having a lot of in-depth conversations for a 2-year period of my time with people on their deathbeds. And I don't know if it was because I was 21 years old, if I was young, or if, I developed a connection relationship with them, and maybe they felt they could just be open and honest with me because I wasn't a friend or a family member. But man, it was just, dude, every one of those conversations, I never had one patient that was like, dude, life was amazing. Life was epic. I'm ready for the next journey, whatever that is. Every single one of those was sharing lessons learned that if they could go over I wish I would have married somebody different. Wish I would have traveled more. Wish I would have been a better father or husband. Wish I would have, went after my dream career. And I'm having questions with those people. It's like, well, why didn't you? Well, my parents really wanted me to do this. It's like, okay, like, you realize, okay, you got these, so here's a prime example. I had a workout partner. He's 50, in his mid-50s. He was also one of my agents on my team at the time. And he comes to me, so we're working out together. And I don't know, after several months, he stops me in one of our workouts. Like, man, I just got to thank you, dude. He goes, up until I started working out with you and having these deeper conversations during workouts, he goes, I realized his father was a high-powered attorney that died when he was young. And he goes, I realized when up to that point in his mid-50s, that up to that point of his life, every major decision he has made, has been around, my father was still alive today, would he be proud? And he goes, I've never I've never really focused on, what do I want? Right? I'm like, so then I was like, well, that's awesome, dude. Great to hear. Like, at some point, it's like, this isn't your parents' life. This isn't your spouse's life. This isn't, society's life. This is your fucking life. Right? Like, figure out what it is that you want, not what society wants for you, not what everybody else wants for you. Like, what do you want for you? So then I follow up and I'm like, okay, what is it that you want? Because I always wanted to live in San Diego. So I'm like, okay, let's get a plan together. And like, that's why he's no longer a teammate, is we got him out in San Diego in 6 months and helped him go out and grow a real estate business out there, right? So yeah, it's powerful to spend that time in that. And look, some people have that extreme clarity on what is it like. Okay, Elon Musk, I want to go out there and revolutionize interstellar space travel because I believe that we need to solve, so the human species doesn't become exist, or so it can continue to exist. Okay, like, dude, I don't have a why or a purpose, anything like that. My whys are like, why the fuck not? Right? Or at the core of the end of the day, for me, and my biggest challenge is, okay, that person looking back at me in the mirror, am I proud of that person? I mean, to me, it's very simplistic. Like that's just all it is for me. I don't have, this might sound weird, but I don't really have financial goals. Now, of course, I set business plans and I set, just of what's possible so we can have a direction to go. But like, I'm not attached to those. Like, if I don't hit those goals, I'm not going to think lesser of myself as a human being. At the end of the day, it's okay, that person that was looking back in the mirror, like, am I proud of what I see?
Yeah.
No, that was good.
Well,
good answer. Yeah.
How do you have these meaningful conversations with the people within your company? Do you have frameworks or exercises, or because you coach, lead, and train other team leaders, but you also ran or run a successful team?
Yeah.
And is that important? as a
100%.
business.
100%. Because
How personal do you go to actually make an impact on someone's life?
Yeah, so we go through about 6 hours of exercises, within their goal setting, clarity, and business planning. Because again, that business plan, it's like if somebody comes and tells me like they want to make $100,000 a year, like the money itself is irrelevant. It's not even a piece of paper. It's just digits on a screen now. Like I want to know, and I want them to know. It's not about me necessarily knowing, but I want them to know. Okay, what does that mean for their life? What is that? How does that impact their life? Like that deeper core meaning. Maybe that's to, get their kids the healthcare that they, whatever that thing is. But we walk them through. So we start with, a lifetime study. So one thing that I always do is, okay, if the average person lives to 84 years old in a developed country, we take 84 minus your age, current age, and then we prorate out. We're all real estate here, so we all know how to prorate, right? So then you prorate the amount of months that you've been at that age, right? And then we divide that out. So then now, because I found now, okay, if I sit there and be like, oh, I got 50 years left. Okay, like we as human beings don't take urgency towards time. But then how do I need to break this down? So I'm like, holy shit, it freaks me out. And I'm watching that ticker every single month. So we break it down to months. Because once you realize that you got, 432 months left to exist on this planet, if you are blessed to live to the average age of the average human being and you are not, don't leave this world prematurely, well, then you're just, so if you had $432 left inside your bank account, you'd probably watch where every single dollar went. So then I'll ask them, okay, do you honor your life more than you do money? Everybody says yes to that. But then I'm like, well, dude, you're full of shit. Like you're not paying attention to your life. You spend more time designing Christmas or your vacation than you do your life plan. Like your words are hollow, actions show what you truly value. So I take them through a lifetime study exercise. I have them visualize, because look, we don't have to experience it to experience it. So I can, and I can get myself in that mental state of that visualization of, pretending I'm laying on that deathbed, or not even a deathbed. Maybe it's just too late to go back and do anything different about it. Okay, what are those things I'm going to regret? So I walk them through that ultimate scoreboard exercise. Then from there, we start planning on, because I don't want people to go out there, at least in my organization, of just making this about business. Like I want them to go out there and, go out there and create an epic life, because that's what we're here to do. I mean, business is a vehicle for us to go out there and create the lives that we want to go out there and create. So then we start, from a long scale level down to an annual level called the GSD Mode model, Get Shit Done Mode model, which is, okay, what is the number one outcome that you must accomplish in this aspect of your life? One for business, and then any area of their personal life. So maybe one's for health, maybe one's for their kids, maybe one's for their spouse, anything else that they want to create these for too. But it's okay, what is the number one outcome that if you accomplish this over the next 12 months, it solves all your other problems, and you will consider this next 12 months of your life a win. I don't want outcomes, I want outcome, right? So what is that number one primary outcome? Then from there, we take a layer deeper of, okay, what are the problems and obstacles in the way that would prohibit you from making this goal a reality? So another way of framing that, like, when I ask people, okay, what are your 12-month goals or 5-year goals? Because when I start asking about people, like, what are your current obstacles? They're like, well, I don't know. So then, if you frame it differently, I'm like, okay, if I were to ask you, like, why the hell haven't you already achieved this? Well, now all of a sudden they start giving me a bunch of reasons. Right? And I'm like, okay, those reasons are your obstacles, right? Then from there, step number 3 is, okay, what are those must-do action steps to eliminate the problems and obstacles so you can make your goal a reality? Suneet mentioned Grant Cardone earlier, and about 10 years ago, I had a chance to meet Grant Cardone in person. This was before he was like internet famous, right? He's still massively successful, but he wasn't, the big internet name that he is. So the reason why I'm sharing that is he was a keynote speaker at an event, but nobody knew who he was. So I was able to go out there, pick his brain, like spend like an hour with him, and having in-depth conversations and asking about his goals. He's asking about my goals. But I said to him, I was like, man, Grant, there's just something that I'm missing, something that I'm not doing that guys like you are doing that is blocking me from getting that next level. It was like like in a meal, it's like, oh, it's missing a pinch of salt, right? Or whatever. Like I thought it was that I was missing that added ingredient. He looks at me and he goes, it's because you're chasing the wrong thing. He goes, everybody thinks that success is an addition. It's almost never an addition. It's almost always an elimination. So he's like, the right question to be asking yourself is what or whom must you eliminate so then you can do the necessary actions to make your goals a reality. Because you obsess over that and it'll change your life. And it was some of the best advice I've ever got. So then from there, we're looking at all of those aspects. And then I have them do, instead of a vision board, we do a vision document. So it's like, okay, all the long-term things that you want to go out there and create, get representations of those from a visual standpoint, but then from there, let's identify, let's just say 4 to 10 of those things that you can and want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Then I have them write a paragraph of each. Yeah, right? Like, okay, what is your life going to look like? How is it going to be impacted? How is your life different? How are you going to feel once you've accomplished this objective, this goal of your life? And then I have them write a negative paragraph of it, of, okay, how is your life going to be different? How are you going to feel, what would that experience be like if this goal doesn't come a reality? Because I want them to feel the pain and then feel the pleasure of if those things accomplish. And I find that this becomes really powerful because, sometimes we set goals that are maybe society's goals or somebody else's goals for us, where we're like, well, if I hit them, I guess I wouldn't really give a shit. Okay, well, then is that the right target for you? If you wouldn't give a shit if you didn't make this thing a reality, well, should it get any allocation of your focus and energy? So then from there, once we get, okay, their next 12 months of extreme clarity, right? Then from there, that's develop the plan. I'll try to help them if I can. Some things I can't help them create plans on in their personal lives, like health and fitness. I do a lot of that with my people just because it's, background of mine, a passion of mine, and I have some expertise there. But I can definitely help them with the business, stand of it. So then that way they know what they need to be doing daily, weekly, monthly to win, to make that a reality. But then we can have those deeper conversations. It's not necessarily about, hey, how are you doing on getting to make that 250 grand? It's, hey, how are you doing on getting to X? Yeah, right. Having deeper core conversations.
Now, is that what you do with your agents as well on the team, or is that more leadership coaching?
That's all the above, man.
It's everything. Yeah.
Because when you look at this, it's like, look, there's a team leader broker. Like the game doesn't change. The game is always the same. I get asked all the time, I'm like, what would you do if you were starting over Tim? It's like the same shit. Like I just maybe have 50 or 100 people playing the game versus me playing the game. So it's like team leaders and broker owners. It's just like, hey, man, the better I can get my agents playing the game, the better we can. So yeah, everybody in our organization, even our staff, I have everybody. I don't care if you're the janitor, the CEO, agent. It's like we're walking everybody through this.
Anybody in a position in which their actions determine their outcomes in terms of incentive structures or even growth within the company, right? So even if you were starting a gym and you had a sales staff, you would probably do the same thing. So like that's the same game. That's always the litmus test for me, is like, would this work in other industries that are similar industries as well, or even study those? I found that was a fantastic framework.
Yeah, because I'm not like. Oh, go ahead.
Like, how are you going to lead somebody into getting the outcome that they want if you don't know why they want it, right? And what they see as their challenges. So,
yeah. So Nick, you brought up the gym industry, right? And I learned this in the gym business. So okay, when I was a personal trainer, okay, if I had a client that was just like, I just want to lose 15 pounds, I look better in a bikini, okay, well, it's kind of a coin toss in the air. But if I had somebody that came to me and saying, hey, I just had my first grandkid. And my father died prematurely of a heart attack, and I'm about the same age my father was, and about the same shape, and have my first grandkid made me realize that, man, I gotta be here. I don't want to just be here. I don't want to just be present. I want to be the fun grandparent that's out there running with my grandkids, and okay, got to that root deeper reason. Okay, now they're willing to push through all the bullshit. Because I mean, dude, it's like. Losing weight, just like creating success in real estate, is extremely freaking simplistic. That doesn't mean it's easy. Like doing the workout every day or showing up and doing your dials every day. Like the difficult part is controlling the mind of, okay, do I eat the chicken breasts and broccoli, or do I go eat the double bacon cheeseburger and have the beer? Right. It's that, but the more clear you can get on that, finite reason, dude, like the more we get people to push through. Because like I find, like, dude, most people with takes very little training to get people to have the knowledge and skill sets that they need to go out there and create success in this industry. Well, why are they still doing it?
Yeah, for me, it's simple. I tie it like my day starts at 4 a.m. I do that because I want to be done at 4 p.m. to hang out with my kids, to go to all the practices. And that's every day. Every day for me, it's the same thing. That's the reason why. I mean, obviously, I want to have success in business, but if I get up at 4 a.m., start my day, I work for a couple hours, and I work out, take my kids to school. Those are the things that are important to me, and that's what I do every day. And the whole reason, obviously to spend time with family, but to be done by 4 p.m. like, Nick and Suneet, I'm always like, man, I can't do a Zoom past 4, which is 1 Pacific.
Yeah, we're still working.
Those are the things that are important to me.
Well, what that deadline does, Preston, is a great story, and it's true, is you have a daily deadline, which creates urgency. Yeah. And what Josh does with like how much time do you have left on this earth is giving you a reality check that there's a deadline no matter what, and there's urgency. And successful people just have more urgency a lot of times because they have a purpose or a why. I mean, and I was one of our Reside clients, and I was coaching one of them, and she was working until like 9 p.m. And she's like, how can I work more to do more? And I'm like, oh, no. Here's the thing. You're done by 5 now. You got to get everything, like that. You need to create a deadline so you can get home by 5. And guess what happened? Her business went up. They didn't go down. It went up because now there's like, oh, I'm compressing time. I have this deadline. I got to get up a little earlier. I got to be well rested. I got to be better. It's a forcing function. So does that resonate with you, Joshua, in terms of deadlines, and how do you set deadlines for yourself, artificial deadlines, or did that spur any thought?
Yeah, 100%. So, clear, concise goals, understand why those goals are important, why they need to be accomplished. Yeah. And almost that core of, and I know that everybody's wired this way, but I think those that want to create success typically are, or those that create success typically are. But it's, to that point of like, dude, I refuse to allow this thing not to happen while I exist on this planet. Right. So then from there, I'm going to create, okay, like what are those plans? What are those goals to make that happen? Like, 2023 exists to get me one step closer to here. So I know what it's all rolling up to. But then from there, I not only do I know what I need to do each and every day, each and every week, and each and every month to go out there and win and be on the right run rate to make that a reality. But then from there, because I find that so many people, it becomes very overwhelming when you start looking at this on a long timeline. So for me, it's, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So like I'm living my life in 18-hour blocks. Like I sleep 6 hours a night. Now, I'm not one to tell people how much like assess and know if you need 8 hours of sleep. Okay, great. I'm one that I feel no better on 8 hours than I do 6 hours. But under 6 hours, I've tried to hack it where I can only, got 4 hours and like my output is as good, man. Right. So, paying it to, so, okay. So then from there, I've found, man, okay, if all I do is obsess over performing at my best in this next 18-hour block, and I'm not worrying about tomorrow. This is just John C. Maxwell quote, take care of today and tomorrow will take care of itself. So then from there, I'm just trying to maximize and optimize to get as much done in this 18-hour sprint as I possibly can. And when I'm doing my daily planning and reflection, so I always plan my next day, the evening before. So I know from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, everything that must take place to make that day a win. Not only do I have all that, activities I need to do, they're committed to a calendar. I break my calendar, that 24-hour calendar, down into 15-minute increments. So again, I can, try to see how much I can get done. And my goal every day is to have no white space on that calendar. But then it's just, and let me take a step back. What I was leading to a minute ago is, look, I don't believe in work-life balance. So to me, it's all life. So I'm just going to integrate it, right? So on my daily planning, it's like all the shit I need to do, for self-development, health, family, whatever it may be. Got to go to my kid's soccer game. Like it's all on there. It's all, everything I need to do to win my life. I didn't do this when I'm on vacation, right? Which I'll get some flack for sometimes, but I'm like, fuck, I have limited amounts of vacations I might be able to take. Like I want to go out there and optimize that vacation, right? So, and then that way, then, okay, after I've executed, okay, here's everything I need to do that win day, for like our agents that we walk through this, it's like, okay, how many leads did you need to generate? How many reach outs? How many conversations? How many appointments set? How many closings? Like, what are those main KPIs, that you need to hit every day? Well, at the end of the day, now we reflect on, okay, here's what you need to do to win the day. Now, what did you get done? And then we're going to reflect deeply on that. So I walk them through some reflection questions because this is the most powerful tactic I've ever done that's made the biggest overall impact on anything I've ever done. It's just this daily plan reflection. It takes like 20 minutes. So, okay, after I've completed this day, first thing I'm going to reflect on it. Okay, what got done? Did I get the shit done that I needed to do? And then if not, I'm assessing why. Now, I don't know if it was, which one of you said it, but earlier of, okay, we spend so much time in like daily regret, beating ourselves up on stuff. Look, I have found that the past exists not for me to beat myself up, not to develop guilt, but for me to learn and grow from it. So like, I don't take this stuff emotionally. I remove emotions from it. Like, I have days where I lose. Okay, well, why did I lose? Like, me getting emotional, just saying, oh, dude, I freaking sucked. I need to get better. I'm going to do better. Like, that does not serve me. That does not help. Okay, what was it that got in the way? What was it that stole my time, energy, or focus that I allowed, that I need to learn from, that I need to make sure doesn't get on my calendar again? Then from there, of the things that move the needle forward, that were effective, right then and there, while it's fresh, I'm assessing, okay, how can I be more effective and efficient at this thing? And I do in pennies and in seconds. So like a little example, because so many people are like, oh, dude, it only takes a couple minutes. So like an example, I have multiple different buildings and in offices in those buildings. I need keys for all these things. Well, as I'm going through this one day, I'm like, man, I'm spinning, shuffling through keys and going in, whatever. I'm like, dude, like those seconds roll up into minutes, minutes roll up into hours, those roll up into days, hours, and months out of our life just gets robbed, from lacking efficiency. So then from there, I was like, okay, what's the solution to this? Okay, let me bring a locksmith and rekey every single door that I need to get to in my life into one master key. My mailbox and my truck, because I guess that's illegal, right? So couldn't get those done. Okay, well, that solved that. But while it's fresh, every day it's, how can I get a little bit more effective and a little bit more efficient? Now, I'm all about efficiency, but I will not sacrifice effectiveness for efficiency. So that's why, I put those two together. Then from there, I ask myself two kind of ending gut check questions that really resonate with me. Number one, okay, if I were to hire a high-paying CEO to replace me and then get exactly what I did today, would I be proud or disappointed with their performance? Essentially, I'm asking myself, like, would I fire my own ass? The secondary question is, if my wife and kids shadowed me all day long today, if they were fly on the wall, would they be proud or disappointed? Would my wife be like, hey, we don't get to see you a lot, and this is what the fuck you're doing with your time? Would she be like, hey, I'm so honored and blessed to be married to such an amazing man that works his ass off to create amazing opportunities for me and our family? Would my kids be like, what the fuck, Dad? Or would they be like, dude, am I leading the way I need to lead? So for me, that resonates with me, right? So that's just those gut check answers. And now if I answer disappointed to those questions, okay, what must I do going forward to ensure that they wouldn't be disappointed in those scenarios? Then from there, now based on that, I plan out the next perfect day. Because the thing with, understanding our KPIs, I know some people aren't big, but like to me, like I want to have clarity on what I want, why I want, why it's important to me, because that gets me to go out there and take actions, on those things. But to me, you got to know the details inside your business. You got to know the KPIs, right? So I obsess over the KPIs. Well, then from there, we're going to have days where those KPIs are off. Maybe I get a call today from my kid's school and they're like, hey, your kid's got strep throat. You got to go pick them up. Yeah, okay, well, an airplane spends 90% of the time in the air adjusting the nose back to the target because of turbulence. We're going to have turbulence in our business, turbulence in our life, fire come up. Okay, well, now if I didn't get those KPIs done, okay, now I can course correct. I can readjust. So paying attention to this, daily, weekly. I don't know. I think that answers your question, Nick.
Yeah.
And more. Yeah,
that's great perspective, dude, about hiring the CEO. That's great perspective.
It's an amazing perspective on the CEO. And I also love the gut check question. You use pain a lot to motivate your ass to stay on course. But I also have the same thing with going home. Is like, if I'm going home and I'm going to look my wife in the eye and I have to explain, I have to have a reason why I'm 30 minutes past, or she's making dinner. She already ate and I didn't make it there. Like I didn't want that to happen. So it's like, yeah, I got to optimize throughout the day. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm super excited to listen to it again. Suneet, Preston, any lasting questions?
Oh no, I have a couple more questions I want to ask.
Yeah.
Real quick, now that Joshua gave us time, because this is years in the making. So we could go on that other topic of personal development and everything forever, and maybe we do again some other time. But let's talk about like real estate and like the whole leads opportunities game, right? You no doubt built your great CRM platform back to the, am I freezing? Okay, there we go. You built Perfect Storm, which I think we have an account still. Dan does for sure. So familiar with that. Probably one of the first of its kind at the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, from a highly effective digital marketing lead gen platform, and it's metamorphosized into, different, we still have that. But yeah, at the beginning it was, like just obsessing over how can we get a 10% plus conversion rate on every one of our opt-in pages, right? Which, can 3x our ROI with any lead source.
So, yeah, awesome. So what is your view today on like online lead game? Because, you got the big referral companies. One of them just increased their fee that a lot of people are talking about. We don't need to say any names, right? But I'm curious, although it's obvious, I'm curious, like, how you feel about that, dude. Because I remember this, like, Dan and I were sitting in an office back in the day. Dan Herbert, we were just listening to everything that you put out back then. It was deep in there. Start a new team, and I remember, like, I'm going to buy a more expensive lead source, and Dan's all, well, Joshua is still talking about generating all these free leads on social media, which is something I learned from you that no doubt made me a lot of money. Did you ever go down the portal route in your career?
Yeah. So there's a few things here, because I get asked all the time, like, well, what are the best lead gen sources? What's the best, like, what's your overall methodology for lead gen source? I'm like, look, if you want to, for longevity of career, if you want to continue to grow and scale your real estate business, like, you've got to get damn good at also your ability to go out there and read the markets. So here's an example. Up till about 18 months ago, one of our institutional clients, that was a big investor client of ours, we were averaging about 20 units a month as far as sales with this one client. Okay, cost of capital goes up. They're like, hey, we are completely out. We're pausing until cost of capital goes down. Like, our numbers just don't add up. We're done. So then all of a sudden now I got a 240 plus annual deficit in sales. Okay, well, I can't have that, right? Like, I refuse to not grow and scale my business year after year. So markets are going to shift, markets are going to change. So when it comes down to lead generation, because everything works and nothing doesn't, but we have to have the ability, again, to go out there and read markets, identify where those opportunities are at, and the biggest opportunities are at, based on that given market. And things are going to be strong, things are going to be low, based on that, with that. Then from there, like, dude, I'm a fan on whatever freaking works, wherever you're getting a great ROI, but I'm also not a fan of putting my eggs all in one basket, right? So here's an example. So so I was with Zillow years and years and years ago. Now we, have a Zillow Flex account now today, but this was years and years and years ago with Premier. I spent about $16,000 a month at that time. And my average cost per lead was about $17, because they used to charge by click. Then one day come in the office and they're like, okay, now we're going to we switched to how we charge, and now we're going to switch to impressions, which maybe works better. But my cost per lead went from like 17 to almost 50, and it crushed my ROI. Now I'm stuck in an annual contract. I'm stuck. Now, whatever. Like, I'm not saying, like, I love Zillow. I'm a huge fan of Zillow, and we do well with our Zillow Flex account. But with that was a huge eye opener for me of, oh shit, man, I can't, like, I gotta make sure I always know how to hunt and fish for myself, and that I am in control of my own fate. So that's when I went and started learning Google pay-per-click and learning, and then of course Facebook ads now, or whatever that may be. But then from there, like I said, you got to be able to read those different markets. Because, like, my favorite overall, like, if we look at and assess the market, because we got to understand there is no such thing as a good market or a bad market. The real estate market's always good for somebody. As professionals, it's our job to identify whom the market is good for, pivot, shift, and adapt to whom it's good for. And our business will always continue to go out there and explode. So as we're assessing those markets, who's buying, who's selling, why are they buying, why are they selling, where are they going, where are they coming from? So you look at this market right now. Okay, we are in the most unaffordable real estate market to exist in U.S. recorded history. We're in the most unaffordable time to be alive as a U.S. citizen in recorded history. We are in the most competitive real estate space to ever exist in recorded history when we look at number of transactions, number of listings versus number of licensed agents. So look, it's a very competitive time. So I'm assessing this. I'm looking what's going on with the consumer savings rate and consumer debt rate, and I'm looking at the big picture here. And we're like, okay, well, where are the best niches? Because, like, look, I still love competitive niches like FSBOs or expireds or open houses or whatever. And hey, as long as we do those things consistent and do them better than our competitors and come up with better unique selling propositions and different value adds, okay, we can have huge success and be better, and be victorious at those things. But that sweet spot is Where is there that huge necessity and demand for our services, but where do I have the least amount of my competition? So looking for those blue oceans, if you will, right? So then in this market right now, I'm sitting there assessing this. I'm like, okay, man, we have a huge increase in NODs. So you got 84 million mortgages throughout the United States. You got 12 million HELOCs, right? About 2.8% of those are in default status right now. So between 30 days in default and haven't been foreclosed upon yet. And about half of those are equity sales, but they need to sell. They need to sell immediately. Otherwise, their home's going to be foreclosed and they're going to lose that equity. The other half of those are short sales. We're versed in those. We know those inside and out. Okay, well, that is a niche. Like if I go out there on Facebook right now and talk about, short sales, I just get a bunch of hate. Oh, the market's strong. It's not going to crash. Prices are, right? And I get a bunch of shallow reasons and answers as to why this market isn't going to crash that hold little to no weight. But the reason why I bring that up, I'm not saying the market's going to crash. I don't have a crystal ball. And I don't deal in speculation, but the market doesn't need to crash for hardships. Right now, we're watching the middle class get evaporated. It's the haves and have-nots, right? Like people don't need to, the market doesn't crash. People experience hardships. So that is something that's not even on the vast majority of agents' radars. Like it is so fucking easy right now to get a listing a day in this market, right? So then from there, we're looking at, okay, investors, okay, short-term vacation rentals, your Airbnbs, you got 1.3 million of these throughout the United States. About 700,000 of these were acquired post-COVID. So they all bought wrong. Yeah, right. You had 70% occupancy rates up until this year. Now average is 52% occupancy rate. So cash flow is down 18%. So they're bleeding capital. Right? We're targeting them to go out there and get listings. And then your long-term buy and hold investors, right? You got most markets we're experiencing cap rate compressions for the first time in decades. You got taxes going up, insurance going up, rents coming down, maintenance going up. Like if you want to sell your house at or close to peak pricing, before your cash flow goes too far into the negative, for those that didn't buy right, then, okay, you can go out there and be victorious. And I always love like win-win niches. So like with these investor niches, right? Like let's just say, the 92% that we have conversations with that don't need to list right now. Now, hey, property's performing great. Don't need to go out there and list or don't, have no intent of selling now or ever in the future. Okay. Hey, great. That's so great to hear. And hey, real quick, before I let you go, just out of curiosity, if I could find you other properties that perform as good, if not better than, this current property, would you have interest in adding additional real estate properties to your portfolio? And if so, would it be okay with you if I emailed you over any great deals I find? Any decently sophisticated, savvy investor says yes to that. So if I can't get them on the buy side, I'm going to capture them on the sell side. So these are just examples. Like, dude, I'm a fan of all of it. But where most people go wrong is they don't pay attention to timeline, psychology, and if you don't know timeline and psychology, it becomes an impossibility to come up with and create the best overall conversion plan to go out there and convert at a high enough percentage to get the necessary ROI with any given lead source.
Solid. Good. That's what I was looking for. Question 8 years in the making. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Nick, any final thoughts?
Well, yeah. What's a question I ask myself too on that, hearing you speak about is what's trending, not in the negative light. I think a lot of people are doom and gloom, like, oh, it's trending away from what was working, so it's going to be worse. No. What's trending and where's the opportunity in that trend? Okay, yeah, the interest rates went up. Who benefits from that? Where's the opportunity going to show up? And I think Joshua just demonstrated all the different aspects that will emerge in this marketplace. And a lot of agents and team leaders haven't ever experienced that before in the past. It's like the Ray Dalio. Is this another one of those? Is this like something that's happened in the past?
Yeah.
And so just understanding the economics of it and seeing trends and the psychology of why people do what they do. It's like if you bought Apple at $200 and now it's down to 180 and you're still holding on to 200, shouldn't you buy more of it? Like you're holding on to some of it and it's worth less. You chose not to sell it, so you'd buy more. It's on discount. So if I'm an investor and I'm holding on to a rental at a certain cap and I can find you a better cap, you either sell that investment and 1031 to the new one, or obviously you're demonstrating that you would buy more, better deal. So Josh is like, if I find you a better deal, would you buy more? Is that a limitation in capital, or you just are dumb? Like you have limitations.
Yeah. And can I add one more thing to that too? Because it's like I'm always looking for those current opportunities. But then from there, in addition to that, it's, okay, let's just assess. And I talked about this earlier of, okay, mastering the sales funnel. So let's just say, okay, well, if past clients, if our SOI and past client, that repeat referral business is our number one lead source, if we're playing the long game, because if you want to play the long game, it's increasing LTV, lifetime value of each customer. Well, then, okay, if I know that that's important to my business, well, how can I 10X my past client adoption rate? Yeah, right. So okay, when I get like all those, Zillow lead or whomever, yeah, right. Let's just say you're doing your long-term follow-up with if you're doing enough follow-up, you're going to consistently hear, let's just say with buyer leads, oh, I already bought. Well, it discourages most agents, right? Well, for me, like I look at that as, okay, I'm just going to slide into my adopted past client follow-up script now where, hey, congratulations. Tell me about what'd you end up buying? What'd you end up getting? Like I'm getting into the, interest of that. Well, hey, before I let you go, it sounds like you got a beautiful home that you're extremely happy, you're going to be in for years. So with that being said, with your permission, I'd love to check in on you every few months, see how you're doing. I understand and know that you just bought this beautiful home. You're not looking at selling anytime now. I just want to check in to see if there's anything that you need, anything I could do to serve and support. Look, you might need a landscaper. You might need a handyman. You might need contractors. Look, I'm not just here to be your realtor. I'm also here to be a resource in any way that I possibly can. So I'm just now, inserting that language of not just here to be your realtor, also a resource any way I can. Now, I've just adopted that client because we know we got a 90% shot chance, probability, if you will, that agent is going to collect their commission check and never follow up with that client again. Okay, well, when they're ready, I'm always playing that long game. So how can I position that relationship where when they're going to go sell in the future, boom, I got them. And that's how I transitioned from, the great financial crisis where everything was REO and short sales. Like there was such a huge turnover. Like I just adopted everyone that was buying any one of my, any of my properties, which pop by with the closing gifts, get to meet them, shake their hand, let them know, give my information, let them know if there's anything that they need. I'm here to support and help, serve support and help in any way I possibly can, and ask their permission. Hey, with your permission, would it be okay if I check in every 90 days with you just to see if there's anything that you need? Look, you got this beautiful home. I know you're not looking to sell. So I'm not just here to be your realtor. I'm also here to be a resource. If there's anything I can do real estate related or not, I'm here to help in any way I can. Everybody says yes to that. I'm just adopting those relationships in. So assessing, again, everything that you're doing and just how can I amplify this? Even the business cards. Like I created, came up with a 4-sided business card that then stands up like a TP versus, when we're even doing showings, but in there when they open it up, it's a little pamphlet with all our guarantees and differentiators on what we do different than our competitors. So then when that seller comes home and sees that business card there and their agent's felling them, boom, they're thinking of us. It's like
I like that.
Think of how can we optimize this? It's not about doing anything revolutionary. It's about how do we do things better and optimize what everybody else is doing, but just optimizing what we're doing it better than they are.
Yeah, you talk about that too. Like most agents, like you said, that they already bought, they give up right there. They stop. They move that lead to trash or whatever. What's the percentage, do you think, of agents that actually do that? Probably over 90%. They give up.
The NR, they say that 88. When they survey post purchase, 88% of buyers and sellers love their realtors. Only 11% ever do a repeat.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying the percentage of people that quit when the person on the other line says, "Hey, I already bought something."
Yeah, dude.
95% of them say, "Okay, bye." They don't continue that on, and probably a lot of them just move that person to trash or move that person to no more follow up.
100% they do. Trash. Yep.
Yeah. I just click a button where it adds them to my 20-year past client follow-up drip, tells me what to do, and
It's so good. Because when the last few years, not this year, but the previous couple of years, I called it hungry hippos. It was just, there's tons of marbles out there. You just hit the paddle as fast as you can. Just paddle. And now there's not as many marbles out there, which, the marbles like an inbound call where we're not getting as many hand raisers, inbound calls as we were. So that's opening up. That's no problem. That just opens up our capacity to do things like what Josh was just saying, past clients and the long game and resources and working on those business cards.
Yeah.
Without making this go 10 hours, where can people find you, follow you, if they're not already?
Yeah, for the few people out there in real estate that don't know Joshua, right?
Well, yeah. So gsdmode.com is kind of the hub website. And then from there, you can, has all, connect with me on YouTube, wherever the podcast is. Got a bunch of free training resources on there. As far as YouTube or any social media, if you just type in Joshua Smith GSD, you'll find me. GSD Mode's name of the podcast, Get Shit Done. So Joshua Smith GSD, or just go to gsdmode.com.
Awesome. Joshua, serious final question. Do you have any t-shirts that aren't black?
No, hell no.
Okay.
No, I do. We've got a long sleeve t-shirt, but it's like a long sleeve hoodie that's gray that has the black GSD on it. But that's the only one.
Okay, good. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining us. Really opportune and really grateful for the opportunity for us, our audience. And you guys go follow Joshua. What's the cool shit he's doing. And if you got something out of this episode, which I know you did, because I did, make sure to like and subscribe, and then we'll see you on the next Reside Platform podcast. See ya.
Yeah.